On the coldest, clearest nights in the far north, the black sky does something that happens almost nowhere else on Earth. It ignites. Curtains of green and violet light unroll across the whole dome of the sky. They ripple, they fold, they move like something alive, deciding where to go. And they do it in total silence, hundreds of kilometers over your head, while you stand in the snow with your breath freezing and your neck craned back, feeling very, very small. We know now, with complete certainty, what this is. It's particles, thrown off the surface of the sun, hurled across 93 million miles of empty space, slamming into the top of our atmosphere, and steered toward the poles by the invisible magnetic field of the planet itself. It is, in the most literal sense, a piece of the sun crashing into the sky above your head. But now do something harder. Forget all of that. Unknow it. Imagine meeting this with no explanation at all. No physics, no word for solar wind, no idea the sun even has a wind. Just you, a few animal skins, a fire that barely holds back the cold, and a sky that, without warning, begins to burn. What would you think was happening? And what would you build to survive believing it? Because every culture that ever lived beneath the Aurora built a story. And those stories tell you more about being human than the science ever will. Start with the Sámi, the indigenous people of the far north of Scandinavia, who have lived under these lights for thousands of years. To them, the aurora was not a spectacle to be enjoyed. It was something to be careful around. In some Sámi traditions, the lights were the spirits of the dead, and you did not draw their attention. You did not wave at them. You did not whistle. Above all, you did not mock them, because the lights could reach down and take you. Children were brought inside. Voices were lowered. There is a northern Sámi word for the aurora that translates to something close to the light you can hear. The idea being that on the stillest nights, the lights made a faint crackling sound, and that sound was them noticing you. For a long time, scientists dismissed that as superstition. Lights that far up couldn't possibly make a sound you'd hear on the ground. Except, in the last decade, researchers in Finland actually recorded faint claps and crackles occurring during strong auroras, close to the ground, on calm, cold nights. The people who lived under the lights for 1,000 years weren't imagining it. They just didn't have the word for the electricity in the air. Go a little south and the story changes shape again. In Finnish, the word for the northern lights isn't scientific at all. It's revontulet, foxfires. The old story says an Arctic fox runs across the snow-covered fells at night, and as it runs, its tail sweeps up sparks of snow into the sky, and those sparks become the lights. A fox, painting the heavens with its tail. That's the explanation a people reached for, and honestly, stand under a real aurora and tell me it feels less true than charged particle precipitation. And the Norse? The Vikings looked up at the same fire and, in some tellings, saw the flicker of armor, light glancing off the shields and mail of the Valkyries as they rode across the sky to carry the worthy dead to Valhalla. I'll be honest with you, that link is more romantic than it is certain, and you'll see it repeated all over the internet with more confidence than the actual old texts support. But the impulse behind it is the real thing. When the sky burns above a warrior culture, of course the sky becomes warriors. For nearly all of human history, for 300,000 years, this is where it ended. With stories. Beautiful ones, frightening ones, but stories. Nobody knew what the lights actually were. And then one man, from the same frozen north, decided to find out. His name was Christian Birkeland. A Norwegian scientist at the turn of the 20th century, he became convinced the aurora was electrical, that it was caused by charged particles from the sun being funneled toward the poles by the Earth's magnetism. To prove it, he built a tiny model of the Earth, a magnetized sphere, put it in a vacuum chamber, and fired a beam of electrons at it. And glowing rings of light appeared around its magnetic poles. He had made an aurora on a lab bench, decades before anyone could go to space to check. He was mostly right. It took satellites half a century later to confirm the details. Today, Christian Birkeland's face is printed on the Norwegian 200 kroner note, the man who turned the foxfires into physics. Here's the physics, quickly, because it's genuinely beautiful. The green you see most often is oxygen, glowing about 100 to 300 kilometers up. The rare deep reds are oxygen even higher. The blues and purples are nitrogen. The color of the sky on fire is just the atmosphere itself, lit up by the sun's exhaust. And when the sun has a truly violent day, the lights spill far beyond the poles. In 1859, a solar storm so powerful it's still studied today pushed the aurora down toward the equator. People in the Caribbean woke and thought a nearby city was ablaze. Birds started singing. Miners got up and cooked breakfast, certain it was dawn. The whole world briefly caught the fire that the North lives with every winter. So here is where it lands. We solved the mystery. We named the particles, mapped the field lines, printed the man who figured it out on our money. We won. But almost none of us will ever see the thing we conquered. Because to see a real aurora, a full, roaring, sky-wide one, you need a truly dark sky. And we have spent the last century erasing dark skies from the Earth. Roughly a third of humanity can no longer see the Milky Way at all from where they live. We flooded the night with light so completely that the very stage the aurora performs on has gone gray in most of the inhabited world. The people who feared the lights, who quieted their children beneath them, who saw spirits and foxes and Valkyries in them, they were, by every modern measure, wrong about what the lights were. But they saw them, every winter, with their own eyes, as an ordinary part of being alive. We know exactly what the fire in the sky is now. We just built a world too bright to watch it burn.